welcome to Hello and welcome to Cruise 5. Today we are here at the Chancellor College, University of Malawi, and our guest is Dr. Sundizwayo Madise. He is the Senior Lecturer in Law at the Law Faculty of Chancellor College. Welcome to Cruise 5.
Thank you, Joe, for having me.
And I believe you are also welcoming us to this university.
Yes.
Yes.
As we always say, the college that God loves the most.
College that God loves. And someone was asking, why do they say so? I was like, well,
it's just one of those things.
it's just one of those things, yeah. But, well, I think this college has contributed quite a lot to the development of the country.
Yeah, it has.
So, possibly God loved it. But whether he loved it most, I think that's up to debate.
Up to God.
It's up to God to tell us if he did. When we go to heaven, maybe we might want to ask him about that.
Yeah.
But for now, they've got there are a couple of questions which I'd like to ask you so that we get to know more about you. Madise, not a very new name. I think there are many Madises around. Yeah. But we are talking to a Sundizwayo now. Yeah. But who are the other Madises? Tell us more about your family.
So my family is... Okay, we're all 9 in total. The first 2 passed on. So that was my firstborn sister and my brother. Okay. So we passed on, and then after that we've got my sister, who's Professor Giovanni Madise. Yes. She's one you don't want to mess around with.
I know, right? I know, right? We might want to mess with her, I think, on this show.
She's the most intelligent person I've ever interacted with. Yes. And then after her, there is my sister, who is Mrs. Matia. I think she's now president of the National Bar Association of Malawi. Yes. And then there is me. And then after me, there's my young brother, who's the Judge Madise, is in Justice Madise. Dingiswayo Madise. Yes. After that, we've got my sister called Tandiwa Tipa. And then we've got another brother called Muzaeka Madise. He's an accountant. And then we had a last one, Dosian Madise, but he passed on actually on the 15th of January due to COVID complications. So that's pretty well my family. Yeah.
Where have you people grown up? Have you grown up here in Malawi, or you've been sons of the world, moving up and down?
Actually, we grew up in essentially Blanda and Lilongwe. Okay. My father was a civil servant. All right. So he actually worked in Blanda and Lilongwe. Actually, he was banished from Mzimba to go to Blanda. Banished? Yeah, he was banished after the 3rd March uprising. You might have heard of this of the Nkatabe massacre. I heard about those. Yeah, so he was one of those people who were arrested in Mzimba. They were shipped out through Nkatabe, and when they were being shipped out, the locals, when they saw that their fellow Nyasalanders at that time were being shipped out, they wanted to storm the ship. And because they wanted to storm the ship, they were killed. So those people were killed trying to rescue people like my father. So when he came here, he was detained at Kucheza detention center. He was supposed to be flown to Kami, I'm told. Kami, I think somewhere in Ghana or something. But the plane had left. And then after he was released, he was banned. But you can never go back to Zimbabwe, you're a troublemaker. Really? So that's how we found ourselves in Blanda.
So who banned him?
The government.
The government at that time. Was he a politically active man?
I think when in his youth. But I think after that, he never wanted to do anything with politics. I can tell you, if you started talking about policy, you just walk away.
There was something that used to happen in those days, and it would make you hate politics like for the rest of your life.
I think that's the reason why. Yes. One thing I know, though, he was never scared of anyone.
So I guess he had a way of making himself heard anyway.
Yeah, I think he did, but that's how we found ourselves in Blanda. So he worked in Blanda and then he worked in Lilongwe. So essentially we were moving between Blanda and Lilongwe. And that's where we grew up.
Did he ever manage to go back home though, your father?
Yes, after some time.
Yes,
after some
when
time.
Things had kind of settled down.
But even before that, even when we had our own government, he had to get authorization
Just to travel back to his village.
When the ban had been lifted. But after that, I think when we were now our own country, they allowed him. And he was a very interesting man. He went back home every year. So, interesting man,
So, very interesting stuff about your father. I hope there's more interesting stuff about you, because we're here to know more about you.
I hope so.
Tell us more about your education.
Okay. Yes, so my education is actually, it's actually in albums. And I call them albums. I stole the idea from Matafale, and I'll explain why. But so I started my primary school at Lingadzi Primary School.
Okay.
And then went to Mpungu. So we were the first people who started Mpungu as a school.
Yes.
And then after that, my father moved on to Blanta. I think he retired. And then I went to school at Misesa.
Okay.
So from Misesa, he moved on to Darab Primary School. Now it's called Namewa Primary School.
Yes.
From Namewa Primary School, I was selected from Darab to Chichiri Secondary School. And maybe I think that's where things start becoming interesting. So from Chichiri Secondary School, I was selected to come here at Chancellor College.
Okay.
And that's why I call Kuimba 1, that's my first album.
All right.
So I read for a Bachelor of Science, a degree. My specialty was physics and mathematics.
Okay.
And after that, I worked as an engineer for MTL. And then I worked as an engineer for ESCOM. And after a time, after 5 or so years, kind of got disillusioned because interestingly, at my graduation, I'll tell you, there was a person who interviewed me, and that person was Gospel Kazako.
Oh, really?
And he asked me, now you've got your degree, are you happy? And I said, no, I'm not yet happy until I get a law degree. That's a long time ago. We're talking of 1991 here.
Really?
Yeah. I think Gospel would remember it.
Yes.
So after that, I started going into issues of human rights, law, and labor rights. And then it occurred to me that I needed to come and study law. At that time, I really didn't know what I wanted to study law for.
Yes.
I wasn't very sure whether I wanted to become a lawyer, but I think I just wanted the knowledge. So I came here to study law, and that's what I call my Kuimba 2.
Okay.
So I studied my law as a mature student, not easy, but I enjoyed myself.
Yes.
And I passed relatively well. After that,
are you just being modest by saying that?
Relatively well.
Relatively well.
Relatively.
Okay.
And then I was offered a job to come and teach. Here. But before that, I had worked for the legal aid.
Okay.
So when I came here, I instantly realized that I loved teaching, and after that, I was given a chance to go and read for my master's degree at the University of Western Cape, which I call Kuimba 3.
Kuimba 3, yes.
So I went there to read, and I came out with my degree. I should say, in Latin they call it cum laude.
Which is relatively, is it still relatively good or very, very, very good?
No, cum laude means distinction.
Yes.
Yeah, so it means...
So it's not relatively...
it's very good. But so after that, then I realized that I think I needed to go and do a PhD. Before that, I really didn't know that I wanted to do a PhD. And so I wanted to do my PhD. And then when I went to do my PhD, I was also teaching or tutoring at the university where I went, at the University of Warwick.
Okay.
And then they told me that if you want to continue this, you need to do another degree, so kind of a second master's degree in teaching, which I did. That's my Kuimba 4.
Yes.
And then eventually I got my PhD, and that's my Kuimba 5. So I have 5 albums.
Well, and are we still waiting for Kuimba 6?
No, I think the PhD is the last one. And I don't intend to do another PhD.
You don't intend to go and study aerodynamics or something like that?
Sometimes I want to do a master's in physics.
You see now, we are not done with this. We are not done with this at all.
But I think it's too much education for one man.
Well, you can never learn too much. I mean...
Yeah, but if you calculate all these years, you realize that almost half my life has been in education.
And then it becomes more like a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
You see,
so I think I said, no, I think let me stop and do other.
Let me start chewing the money out of all the work that I've put in this.
Exactly. So
that's our guest today, Dr. Sundizwayo Madise. He is a lecturer at the law faculty here at Chancellor College, and he's going to tell us more about his taste of music now, which seems to be quite Catholic, because it's all over the place.
It's all over the place. You see, I love all sorts of music.
Yes.
My best genre, of course, is reggae.
Aha.
But you see, I love reggae. I love the rock.
Yes.
Hard rock.
Yes.
I also love a lot of local music.
Ah.
Yeah, so my choice of music is kind of spread.
Yes. What's our first song going to be?
Our first song, I think, will have to be Sagona by Lucius.
Oh, yes.
I think it's my favorite artist.
Your experience in unionism, because I think some people will say, I've heard this name somewhere. And some will remember that it's in unionism because you were quite loud and quite vocal.
And it got me into trouble.
I guess it did.
Yeah.
I guess it did.
So my unionism actually dates back to my secondary school days. And I'll tell you the reason why. So I was supposed to have been the head boy.
Supposed to?
Yeah.
But you were not.
So the headmaster called me in his office.
Yes.
And he told me that...
Where is this?
At Chichira Secondary School.
Yeah.
He says, you are supposed to be the head boy.
But
a few of the teachers have said you must not be the head boy because you usually side with your fellow students and you usually cause a lot of problems here.
But that's the whole idea. I'm supposed to side with my fellow students.
But the head boy is supposed to kind of mete out discipline.
Yes.
So I said, no, that's okay. And then he said, you can become any prefect that you want. Choose a prefect. So I chose to become entertainment prefect.
Well, at least you won't be fighting with anybody because you're
also the library prefect because I used to do top of the class.
Okay.
So I love the library.
Okay.
But that taught me something. It taught me that where I stood with people. It taught me that I stand with the people who are downtrodden, the people who need help.
Yes.
So when I came here at Chancellor College, I was very much already, I think, into the spirit of unionism.
Yes.
So here I ran for office. I was elected and became I think there was Director of Publications and Information for the University of Malawi Students' Union.
Yes.
In the second year I ran again and I became, they called us chairman. They couldn't call you president at that time.
Oh,
there
yes,
was only one president.
Yes.
So I was chairman of the University of Malawi Students. And after that, the union just took off from me. So when I went to ESCOM, we started the union. There was no union. We started the union called ESCOM Workers Union. I think it has now changed. And I also became very active in organizing other unions. So we actually went around and organized quite a lot of unions. Some of the unions I see around today, we recruited the initial people. We told them not to be scared.
Yes.
We told them that they were fighting for their rights. And I also rose up to become president of the Malawi Congress of Trade Unions. And then after that, I came back to school, so I had to leave those things. And when I came here, I also served as the president of the Chancellor College Academic Staff Union.
Yes.
I think for a term, or two. And right now...
Taking over from Jessica Buya
Yeah, I took over from Jessica Buya, yes. Right now, I'm a human rights commissioner, but I was nominated to go there by the Malawi Congress of Trade Unions. So it shows that there was something good I did at the trade union.
But tell me about the downside of it, because I think, and maybe we're just saying the downside because for lack of a better term, you do get in bad books, especially with leadership.
Yeah, you do.
When you are that vocal and that strong. Yeah.
But you see, something I read about from my father, I think, my father really never cared about things like those. So
he just wanted to do
the right thing. But my approach has always been to negotiate. It's not that I've not led strikes, I have. But I always take a strike as the last resort. And I always say there's room to negotiate. Always there's room to negotiate. So I was never scared to, for example, to go and meet the top person so for example, when I was here, meet the principal, or meet the vice chancellor, or meet the chairman of council, and when I was at ESCOM, meet the chief executive officer, or the topmost person, and have a one-on-one discussion and says, where do we disagree? How can we make things better? My view has always been that if you have a happy workforce, they work very, very well, they work with a lot of diligence, they are hard workers, and then the organization will benefit. So, but yeah, you do get in trouble because when people are doing bad things, you call it out. Yeah,
do people like you genuinely care, and excuse me for asking it this way, do you genuinely care about the welfare of the people, or there's something hidden in it? You know, like maybe you get some kind of recognition and then when you're walking around, you're like, that's the guy,
okay.
You know.
I'll say this. My father came from the village. When he was at Bradley Secondary School, he told me a story. He came there with shorts. Yes. That's all. And a short and his shirt. That's all. And when he went there, his name then was Pangazinda. When he went to the school, the school headmaster said, you can't come here in shorts.
Shorts, yeah.
You can't come here without shoes, without a shirt. That's my father. And then he gave him a pair of trousers, a shirt, and shoes. And my father always said they were too big for me, but they were the most beautiful shoes I've ever worn.
Yes.
So my father came from nowhere.
Yeah.
We grew up in a family where we always didn't have enough.
Yeah.
I would be lying to say my father was poor, but he wasn't rich either. So we grew up with humble beginnings, in humble homestead. So, and that's how I grew up. I was never rich. I never had things when I was a student or whatever it is. If I have things now, it's because I've worked for them.
Yes.
So, yeah, you see, on the world political continuum, I stand on the left.
Okay.
Much more with the socialists than the capitalists.
Yes.
Because I'm a unionist. So, no, I believe in it. I am a unionist at heart. And I will always, no matter what I become, I will always side with the worker. I will always side with the person down there. That's who I am. That's
quite comforting then, I guess, because sometimes one is tempted to think there's a hidden agenda behind the whole thing.
In the union, it's very difficult because most people don't like you in the union. So it's a bad...
You might get kicked out.
Yeah, it might be a bad route to get to stardom. But the only thing that sometimes I see is I meet people who I work, for example, at Escobar, say, do you remember me? I said, no, I don't. I've grown quite old now. And then they'll remind me what we're able to achieve. And when they do that, oh, mine, I feel like I'm in heaven.
Exactly.
And I think that's all you can...
It's gratifying.
It is gratifying.
That's our guest today, Dr. Sundizwayo Madise. Our second song.
Our second song is Mwayenera.
By?
Yeah, Grace Chinga Mofati.
Powerful artist, that one.
It is because there's a reason why I chose that song. When I was doing my Kuimba 4 and 5,
yes,
I struggled sleeping. So I discovered that song, and it was the song that would make me go to sleep. I kid you not.
You had demons in you. Not
demons. The school was the demon.
You had demons in you.
You see, when you're doing especially a PhD, your life changes. You sometimes I would wake up at 10 a.m. and then I would wake until 2, 3 a.m.
Your day gets totally warped.
Yeah. Because sometimes you're in the zone, and when you're in the zone, you have to deliver.
You want to make the most of it.
Sometimes things just don't work. So I found that song, and I'll tell you, I'll leave it playing, and then it would quickly get me to sleep. So it's a song that is very close to my heart. I
hope it doesn't get you to sleep, though.
Yeah.
Because we still want you to hang around and hear more about our guest today, Dr. Sundizwayo Madise, Grace Chinga with Mwayenera.
Usiku ni wa
Among those albums, I don't know where your interest in sports features. I think it's a single or something.
Okay, so when I was a student here, I was at Chester College during my Quimba one. I used to play a lot of basketball.
Okay.
That's my closest I have gone to contact sport. When I was at Dara Primary School, I know I was the substitute goalkeeper in our under 12 team.
And you made your team lose all the time.
No, I never had a chance to play. But when I was doing my Quimba 2, I know I was the goalkeeper for our law class. And we managed to do well. Okay. But that's the closest I can get to sports. Now I'll tell you how I became a sports administrator by accident.
By accident?
Yes. It was because I would say maybe our success in the union.
Yes.
That a few people when I was at ESCOM contacted me and says, look, you're doing very well in the union. Can you help us with the football team?
So there's always somebody noticing what you're doing anyway.
And I said, I'm too busy, I can't combine these. Yeah. And then they kind of convinced me, said, what do you have to lose? So I went there, and then I had a person who was also in the union called Azikiwe Musambewe. We were together in the union, and he agreed he was going to be my team manager. We enjoyed ourselves, man. We recruited some of our best players, people like Peter Mponda, Emmanuel Chipatala, and then we had great coaches like Yasin Osman, Dean Pinto. It was a good team, and we built that team. We had also a person called Charles Twalibu who had inherited the team when it came from Ironga. I remember we won so many things, the team name changed from ESCOM to Super ESCOM.
Wow.
Then, with two colleagues of mine, Henry Chibo and Gaston Mwenopembe, one were having, I think, one cold one somewhere. we kind of pondered the thinking of starting a league for our clubs. Because at that time it was still part of a national league, but part of the blood in this football league. Okay. That was what it was at that time.
Yes.
So we mooted the idea and used the South African model. So we mooted the idea of forming a Premier League, but we already had a Premier League in the Blended District Football League. So we thought of creating a Super League. And we agreed, and we talked to a few people. I think we had a person called Major Jambo. I don't know whether he's still alive. Then we had Professor Ahantenje, who was with the university. Yes. And then I remember we went, and it was kind of clandestine operations. The Football Association didn't like it at that time. So we went and met people like Mr. Nyakamera, who was the chairman of Wanderers, people like Rashid Nembo, who was the chairman of Bullets, and we convinced them. And once we convinced them, we launched what was called the Sulam Multi-Choice Bonanza, and that was the start. So that's how we started the Super League of Malawi.
Oh, really?
And I was its first president.
Wow.
And that's really how I got interested in football. And after that, I've always loved sports and sports administration. I would say I'm the only Malawian I think I know, or the first person I know, who has ever chaired two clubs. So I chaired ESCOM Football Club in the Super League, and I've also chaired Bullets in the Super League. So I think I've not done too badly.
Not too bad at all. In fact, even at the Football Association of Malawi, you rose to the position of vice president.
I was vice president. Because I was president of Sulam, so I was invited to go there. I think there was a vacancy, a casual vacancy. Okay. So I did rise there. Although I did serve in farm for quite a long time. So those are not memoirs. I think it is my tenure at the Super League that, to me, is much more interesting. When I see the Super League now, I always feel good.
You said, well, I was part
of this.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And this is something that came from, like I said, a few chord words.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I guess the secret lies under that bottle, doesn't it? Yeah, at the bottom of the bottle, there's a lot of wisdom, as they say, in wine. Tell me about the money that you stole as the vice president of the Football Association of Malawi.
No, actually, I don't know whether I was vice president or I was general secretary.
Yes.
Actually, I never stole anything. Never, not even a cent.
Well, you were supposed to give someone, and then you kept a little bit.
No, this is what had happened. We had won we were paired against South Africa.
Yes.
So at that time, people wanted to bid for hosting rights.
Yes.
TV rights. So I think there was a competition between South African Broadcasting Corporation. I've forgotten the other one. They used to be the TV rights holders for COSAFA.
Yes.
I've just forgotten the name. It's quite some time. So went for a discussion with them. Now, the problem, I always call it, the problem is that when we went there, they advanced us the money. Okay, they advanced us some money, which we bought equipment. And the equipment came here. Now, what happened was that when they wanted to give us the money, at first, they wanted to then remit the whole amount of money. And then they said, no, we forgot to reduce by such amount. So we have to reduce that amount. So they got the money back, and but then South African Broadcasting Corporation are the ones who say, no, if you have given it to our colleagues, it means something has gone wrong. Because the issue is that if I had stolen the money, so it would have been stupid for me to steal the money and then use the same money to buy equipment. Because the equipment was there at Football Association of Malawi. And just to show you that if that was the problem, I would never have come back to football.
No, you would. I mean, that's a different story altogether. Because I mean,
how would
in those days,
no, I would not have come back.
In those days, it was alleged that you were actually involved in. There's that issue of the football beaming rights, and then the issue of bribing a referee to make sure that the Flames win. You remember that was one of the issues that came up.
That was crap. They never even went far with that. The point is, sometimes you're just good with people. So there were some referees that came. And I didn't fully understand it because you're supposed to take care of the referees. You're supposed to give them a vehicle, they should go around. And I know this particular referee wanted to go out in the night. Yeah. So I remember assigning one of the referees, local referees, to say, can you take him around? And I didn't fully understand what the issue was all about. But I think that issue never even went far because when the issue went to court, it didn't go far. But this is the issue. The issue went to court. The court found that I was in the wrong. You know, sometimes as a lawyer, this is what I can tell you. The fact that you've been found guilty doesn't mean you're guilty. And the fact that you've been acquitted doesn't mean you're
not
right.
Guilty.
No.
But sometimes the fact that you've been found guilty could also mean that you are guilty.
Yes, it would. But,
so I mean,
but this is the point. When it happened, I made a decision. Says, between me and God, have I done anything wrong? And I looked at my heart and said, no, I haven't done anything wrong. It's what it was called a technical conviction. So if certain things are not right, and even if you try to give an explanation, it's a little bit difficult. And the system then set out to make sure they got me out of football.
So now, that's the issue that I wanted to get. What was happening? From your understanding,
I'll be honest
happened?
with you. A lot of elements of tribalism. Okay. There was a minister who told me in my face. There was another time, I'll tell you what, a minister was sitting to me, he didn't know where I come from, because sometimes my teacher can be sometimes I speak like, I'm from Cholo, sometimes I speak like I'm from Blantyre or Lilongwe. I just pick up an accent. Yeah. And this minister was sitting next to me, and he was complaining that the national team was full of people from a particular regional district. And he was telling me. And I said, crap, what's wrong with this guy? But yeah, this is politics in football. It's cutthroat, it's serious. But you see, in life, those are what I call critical junctures. Sometimes you go in this direction and something blocks you. What do? Do you give up? No. So at that time I said, okay, I'll stop doing this. Let me do something else. But this is the point. I wanted to do something else. I left football. I was asked, to come back into football by Bullets. Become the chairman. Now, I don't think Bullets people are stupid. Either they thought I was framed or they saw something through me. Okay. So they gave me an opportunity. I think I went back to run football. It's one of those things that did not happen. I don't think I would have come to study law. Okay, all right. I don't think I would have come to study law. So, but your conscience is clear that nothing untoward happened. Yeah. Absolutely clear. Very clear. That's our guest today on Cruise 5. That's our guest today on Cruise 5, Dr. Sundizwayo Madise. Third song. My third song... Not the one that sends you to sleep when you're failing to sleep studying a PhD. So my third song would have to be my tribute to the person who created the albums. Yes. Young Anankope. So Everson Matafari. He started are you a big fan of him? I'll be honest with you. Yeah. In my spare time, I used to produce music. And I'm not going to kill you. Do you sing? So, no, I'm very bad at singing. Well, your voice sounds like you could sing. I think so. There was a time I used to be in the choir at church, but I think that's the closest. So I'll tell you, my production was on post-production and electronic mastering.
Okay.
So I'll tell you this. 2 people came to me and asked me if I could do, so I used to do discs and remaster music for people.
Okay.
So there were Patrick Ankwatira,
yeah,
and I think Petrus Mazunda, Peter Mazunda.
Peter Mazunda.
And they said, there's this young chap from Chileka.
Yes.
Can you do something about him? Can you produce his, can you remaster his work? And they said, let me listen to what you have. And usually at that time, the music, most of it was either in tapes or CDs were just coming. He's one of the artists where I listened from the first song until the end.
Yes.
And then I said, can you call him?
Yeah.
So this young man comes to my house. He's very small.
Yeah.
He looks bemused.
Yeah.
And we have a chat. And
yeah,
I said, how do you want me to create your music? How do you want me to remaster your music?
Yeah.
How do you want it to sound? Which levels do you want to come up? Because it's been recorded already.
Yeah.
And then I took time to design the sleeve for the CD.
Ah.
It took me it took me, I think, about 3 days. It was because Everson was so particular about what he wanted, where, which color. So the original sleeve of the CD, I designed it.
Really?
Those CDs, I made them.
Wow.
That cover, I made it. That was my part of my pastime. I have also done it for other upcoming artists at that time. Yeah, I have done it. I think Wycliffe Chimwenda did some.
Yeah.
I also did some from this chap from Chileka, Anthony Makondesa, and a few other people.
So it's going to be Yangana Nkobe from Everson Matafari. Dr. Madise, you were tried, convicted, and slapped with a suspended sentence. And listening to you talk, you seem to acknowledge that it's around this time that things kind of took a turn in your life.
Yeah.
Tell me what was going on in your mind at this time and how it made you sit back and say, goodness gracious, what's going on?
I'll tell you what, by that time, I had already gone past it.
Okay.
I had already decided, so I had already made plans for my life that if things don't go right, this is what I'm likely to do. I didn't think essentially that I was going to study law.
Okay.
But you see, I had gone through quite a lot up to that time.
Right.
Some of my own friends had kind of betrayed me, and you get to know these things, you know. And so it was tough, and most of them were in football. And that was also, I think, one of the reasons why at that time I said, I don't want anything to do with football. But yes, I do make a turn, and I remember I went to court in the morning, the court actually put out a fine, I think, and then suspended the other one. And then in the afternoon, I went to watch football. And that was the decision. I said, I'm not going to be put down. I'm not going to accept anything want to put me down. I remember going there, a few people were a little bit surprised to see me.
They're like,
what is he doing here?
yeah, like a Forrest Gump kind of situation. I don't want to sit next to you.
But I said, I'm not going to care about what people think, because at that time I said, with me and my God, I'm clear. And to me, I think being at peace with yourself is much more important. Because if my conscience was clear and my God was, I think if I was not, I don't think I would be here. I think somewhere God stood up with me and says, look, my child, let's walk on a different route. So yeah, it was a critical juncture in my life. I made a change, but I had a lot of support, I should be honest, from my family, and a lot of friends. I had a lot of support. So yeah, I think that also helped me.
So there's a certain point in your life where you seem to have just literally fallen off the face of the earth, and until you resurfaced as a
I think it's because I decided to come and study.
Yes. So what was happening in between? What did you do? What else did you get?
Okay, no, I became president of my Congress of Trade Unions. So I was still busy with my union work.
Okay.
But yeah, studying can also keep you a little bit busy.
All right.
And I also used to do a lot of labor consulting. So I used to help people who had been fired but who didn't have money to take cases on their own. So I'll just do it for them. I will not charge them anything. So I had an organization called Labor Resources Center. We'll be asking for people for donors for money, but essentially we were helping people who had been dismissed. So yeah, at that time I kind of played a profile. But even at that time I was chairman of Bullets.
Yes.
When I was studying here, I was chairman of Bullets. So it wasn't like I had really gone quite.
So yeah, I mean,
I was chairman of Bullets twice.
You seem to be, you're stuck in sports and in football, because you are now the board chairperson of the Sports Council.
I just love sports. I'm a sportsman at heart. I'm going to be very good with my body. The only other sports I would say is when I was young, I would go to the mountain and do a little bit of Kung Fu and Jiu-Jitsu. And that's something I still do.
Did you get a belt?
Yeah, I don't have a belt. I didn't go for testing, but I still do. I have a small gym at my house. I still pump iron. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes you get busy with life. But yeah, I've always been captivated with sports, and I think now I'm stuck in sports administration. Yeah.
So the decision to study law now, tell me, because obviously earlier on it was more like just a fantasy thought, but then you said, okay, I'm going back to uni. And I mean, I've always marveled at this. You had everything figured out. You've been to college, you've done your 4 years, you could get a job and so on and so forth, you're into sports. And then you say you literally drop everything and you go back to college.
Yeah, it was a risk. Yeah, it was a risk. The reason was essentially, maybe I wanted to say I can do it.
Yes.
But I think it was because when I was doing this work as a labor resources counselor, where I would counsel people and help people, I would get stuck if I wanted to do certain things. So, for example, I would go into the Industrial Relations Court and help them because that court allows non-lawyers. But sometimes I write a letter to an organization complaining that this person has been fired, and then they would get their lawyer to respond. And then they would be talking about language and say, what are they saying? I have to go to a dictionary to read it and all those things. And then I became intrigued to say, maybe I need to understand what are these people saying. Sometimes I would go to the Industrial Relations Court and help people. And then there'll be a lawyer, then they'll be sounding very lawyerish, legal English and everything. And they would also be trying to put me down.
Yes, exactly.
He's not a lawyer.
Exactly.
So I think, to say the truth, I think that is what made me say, let me go back and study law. And especially so that I can help these people much better. And also because sometimes we'll be stuck where if the matter was going to the High Court, so I'd have to ask a few people to help. And I remember at that time there were people like Mr. Kankwasi, Joseph Kankwasi. He would take our cases without charging anything. Very good people. So I said, let me also do it so that I can help these people. So my little reason was essentially that I was still hoping I would get my law degree, go back, and continue helping the people.
And you never did.
I never did, but
here you are stuck.
No, but the organization still continued. I still helped people, but I went back and worked at the Legal Aid Bureau. And the reason I went there was specific for that, to give back to my country. I must be honest. My first degree, I had paid nothing. The government of Malawi sponsored me. They not only sponsored my degree, they even gave me an allowance. Yeah, Yeah, at that time they used to give us allowance. Don't laugh. I think it was 12 kwacha.
Ha ha ha.
But don't laugh.
I'm sorry, I already laughed.
Set it up as tax. It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. I never needed any money from my parents.
Yes.
It was not, you could get a girlfriend.
Yes.
And still, take her out to places with that money. So don't laugh. But you see, even for the second degree, I came as a mature student. I paid slightly more fees, which my sister helped me to pay. But even the fees that I was paying was still subsidized. So I said, let me give something back to my country, to the government. So I went back to the legal aid, and I worked there, maybe about 6-7 months, because I came here. But the reason I went there was because I said, let me give something back to the
All right.
Yeah.
And then you came back here and you've risen to the position of Dean of Law.
I was Dean of Law, yeah.
Yes. That's quite impressive indeed. But what I think is not very impressive is what kind of lawyers are we producing at this university?
Great lawyers.
No, I wouldn't say so.
Great lawyers.
No, I mean, like, they're some of the best thieves in the country.
No, actually, no.
Excuse my French.
No, I'll be honest with you. We have thieves in Malawi.
And lawyers are some of them.
They're Malawians.
You are training them here.
Yeah, but also people who are not lawyers are thieves. So the point I'm trying to say is that, unfortunately, when a person like a lawyer does something, it gets amplified. And the same thing as accountants. But I'll tell you, you've got accountants, you've got doctors, you've got procurement people, you've got journalists, you've got people who do nothing, who steal. So, but I'll tell you what, the lawyers we train here, top-notch. Top-notch. But you see, in the old days, you have a class of 5, 10 lawyers.
Yes.
Very few. If 1 or 2 were errant lawyers, you'd quickly know them. Nowadays, our class is average of 60.
So it's quite a large class.
It's quite a large class. Yeah. And out of 60, you don't expect all of them.
At least 59 maybe, just one bad apple.
Yeah, but you see, when that bad apple does something wrong, it gets amplified.
I guess so.
So I would still say our lawyers are top-notch.
Well, what else do you expect to hear from someone who's been a dean of law? But some people have said, and I don't know, it gets me a little bit desperate, that the setup in Malawi is such that it's a bit difficult because it's one institution that is producing all these lawyers, and it becomes a bit difficult when a lawyer, an errant lawyer as it is, has to face the law, as it were.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because you are facing your old classmates or your lecturers, and it's such a peculiar situation.
No, it is. You're right. I think although things have changed now, we've got a new law, which allows other institutions to establish law schools. Of course, they have to follow some kind of accreditation processes. We are also allowing lawyers who have been, or students who have been trained outside, to come and sit for the bar exam after going through training here. So the law has changed. But I do agree with what you're saying, that more or less most of the lawyers kind of know each other. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to hang your colleague to dry. That said, I am aware that the Law Society, the Attorney General, the Solicitor General, and all those people who are involved in the discipline issues have been disciplining lawyers. But you see, the point is that most of the discipline is done internally. And I know that people would want maybe to know what is happening.
Well, I wouldn't want to know what is happening.
Yeah, but the problem is sometimes some of these issues can be contentious. If you bring them out, and then the person is found to have been not in the wrong.
Yes.
They might sue you because you've kind of damaged their reputation.
Okay.
So it's challenging, but I hear you, and I think it would be naive for me to say that those things don't happen.
Yes.
Those concerns are there. I think the Law Society is trying very hard to ensure that that is kind of improved. But I hear you. But I think you have to understand the position I'm in. As a lecturer of law, it's going to be very difficult for me to start dissing my own students.
I wish you did, though. I mean, you've been known to speak your mind.
No, I do. But when I meet them,
you're not speaking your mind.
Because here it's a public TV. But when I meet them, I tell them. I said, look, this is not right. What you're doing. Yeah. But I think you have to understand the shoes are in.
He is in a very, very awkward position now. So maybe we can't expect to get much out of him. That's our guest today, Dr. Sundizwayo Madise. He is a law lecturer. He's been the dean of the law faculty here at Chancellor College, and he's going to tell us his 4th song.
Okay, so my fourth song would have to be Didi by Faith Musa.
Yes. Here you mentioned the word God, you know, the Lord this and that. Are you a religious man?
I'm a Christian. I don't think I'm very religious. I must be honest with you. The reason is sometimes I question things. And I know when I do that, my priests don't like it, my friends who are very religious don't like it. But I always say, God gave us the brain for a reason.
I guess there's a conspiracy to stop people from thinking too much.
And people say, you're questioning God. If God didn't want us to question, He would not have given us a brain.
Well, I guess you're not supposed to go beyond a certain...
No. If God, the way I know God, I understand God. God is so huge, you can never get close to Him. So even you're questioning, God laughs at you. So I always get amazed when people want to defend God. Who are you to defend God? You and me were nothing.
No, but maybe their understanding is much, much better than yours.
No, it's not. Everyone who says that is lying. We all don't know. That's the truth.
Do you go to church, though?
I go to church religiously. I haven't been going to church much with the COVID.
Of course.
But before that...
You would go to church. But you'd be questioning everything that the preacher is saying, I'm sure.
No, I'll be getting it.
I don't think that's true.
No, I'll be getting it. But sometimes, yeah, he reads a verse, and I know that the context is different, and he preaches different. I do that because I studied Bible knowledge in secondary school. So I know, I read the Bible. Yeah. We studied it as in class. And I also have colleagues of mine who are philosophers and theologians. Yeah. So they will explain to me certain things. No, but I don't go to church to question. I go to church to be given food, spiritual food. And sometimes you go to church, you have a sermon that just touches your heart. Or you have an interpretation of the Bible which you've never known or heard. Yeah. So, I go there.
So you believe in God, in Jesus, and the supernatural creature somewhere that...
I believe in supernatural creatures. I believe in that, but I also believe in science.
Okay.
Remember, my first degree was physics and science.
Exactly.
And my study of physics questions some of the things people believe. Because I've studied physics.
Okay.
And I know what's out there. So I know, for example, that this Earth is not the center of the universe.
Okay.
Even of our own solar system is the sun.
Yes.
These are basic things. But from a person who's very religious, they will not understand it because they'll think you're trying to undermine the Earth. I don't think that's what it is.
The power of the Creator.
Yeah. I've always had a view that evolution was not the way we look at it. It was much more complicated.
Okay.
And so my understanding is that religion and science don't have to be in conflict.
Well, that's an age-old debate, but I guess it looks like the meeting point is far from near because, as you're saying, somehow, and I know it's a debatable issue, people say you should not question a lot of things in religion, but science thrives on questioning things. Yeah. Why does this happen this way and so on and so on?
And there are things that science can't explain.
Exactly.
And to me, that's where religion or God comes in, where you can't fully explain things, where even your thinking comes to a stop. But the problem I have is for people to say, science is against God. No, that's not true. Okay. Yes, there are other scientists who are against God, but I've never had problems trying to reconcile them. Like I said, I've always looked at evolution as part and parcel of creation. Okay. So it's something that I know I always get in trouble with most people. Yeah.
There are many things that we could have talked about, but quick one, the issue of injunctions and things like that, especially where it seems to come in conflict with national development.
Yeah.
I remember the former president, Professor Bingu Mtarika, was really frustrated about this, and he talked about mercenary lawyers and things like that. And you know the Red Star campaign that couldn't start because of the thin plastics, ban of thin plastics. What's your take on such
My
thing?
take is that it's the law, and if you want to change the law, change the law. Don't blame the lawyers. So we've got a law in this country where people have a right to challenge things. You cannot take away that right. But this is the problem. And this is something that I've heard the current Attorney General putting a lot of emphasis. We have had a situation where normally government would not challenge most of these things. So I'd go and get an injunction as a lawyer. If the other side doesn't challenge it, what do you expect? So this is the way an injunction works. Normally, injunction is made ex parte. Ex parte means the court only hears from one side.
Okay.
So I'll go to the court, and I'll explain things to the court. And what the court will be deciding that if this is true, if this is true, then this person is going to suffer. So let's grant an injunction. The idea is, the court gives an injunction. You're supposed to come back to what is called an inter partes application. All sides come. And then the court hears all the sides now. But if the other side doesn't even turn up, or when it turns up, it's very ill-prepared, or not prepared at all, then the court still listens to one side. So this is where we have to be a little bit, I think, clear that we need, for example, against government, the government must beef up the Attorney General's chambers. We need a lot of lawyers. We need to have a situation where you have lawyers maybe in every district. So, for example, if I go and apply for an injunction here at the Zomba High Court, the Attorney General is in Lilongwe. So they'll not know about it until maybe 2-3 weeks. But if they were here, they will know about it. They will know about the local situation, and then they will prepare. Having said that, yes, sometimes some of the injunctions ought not to be granted.
Yes.
So I think this is an issue that is concerning even to the legal profession.
Yes.
But you're not going to blame lawyers for taking advantage of some loopholes, are you? Because that's what lawyers do. They win cases by looking at opportunities to say, how can I get the best for my client? But I hear you that sometimes we have had injunctions where even us as lawyers, you just shake your head or you just open your eyes wide and say, what is happening here? But I think it's something that we can work on. We have now appointed, the president has appointed a lot of judges. I think he appointed 12 new judges. So hopefully this will change things. We're going to have much more justice going on. The problem is not the injunction. The problem is that after the injunction, what happens?
What happens? If somebody just lets it slide?
And normally there'll be a case. What happens to the case? So average period of a case or cases before the new judges was around 5 years. It's too long.
It's too long.
Others may be fast, others may be long, but the average is about 5 years. Who wants to litigate for 5 years? By the time you're finishing, the client may be dead. The lawyer may be dead, or whatever it is. So we need to speed up our justice system. Having new judges helps, but also lawyers need to be vigilant. But now we also have a new system where the courts are a little bit much more hands-on. So the rules have now changed. It will take a little bit of time, but yes, I hear you. It's something that even as lawyers, we get worried.
The president surrendering his powers, and you know, it's been a podium talk for quite some time. Do you see the current president doing that? Doesn't seem to be.
I think he's interested. The problem is the system. He cannot just say, I've given up my powers. The law says you shall be vice chancellor. You shall be, chancellor of the University of Malawi.
Yes.
The law says so. You cannot say, I'll not be chancellor.
You'll be contravening.
You'll be contravening the law. So we need to change the law. I have written a small paper on this.
Okay.
And my argument is that actually the president doesn't have a lot of powers.
They don't?
They don't. The problem we have is not powers, it's abuse of power.
Abuse of power.
That's our problem. Most of the decisions that we have complained about, the president doesn't even have those powers at all. That's where the problem is. That's why people think, oh, the president is doing this, the president is doing that. If you actually go into the law, you realize that some of the things, the president doesn't have those powers. But there are certain powers that, in my view, the president doesn't need it to have. So, for example, you could easily change the law so that the president doesn't have to be chancellor of any university. Or he could just be chancellor of one university. For example, appointing chiefs, paramount chiefs, senior chiefs. Some chiefs, come on. The president can let go of those powers, but it has to be in the law. Appointing maybe the SCB director, my view is that should be done by someone else. Maybe appointing commissioners of the Electoral Commission. Maybe we could have an independent board that does that. Those are the powers. The rest of the powers are there because the president has to do it. It's not only here in Malawi. For example, appointing judges, the whole world. Presidents do that. Appointing ministers, whatever, the president does that. If you actually see the powers of the president, what he actually has, you realize they're not as many as people think.
Is that so?
It's the abuse of power, which we have been seeing around, especially in the past. That has made people to say, reduce the powers. Most of the powers are not there.
Well, I've always meant to believe that the president has too much powers. No. And that's why they always talk about, oh no, I will cede some of my powers.
That's why people can challenge the president in the exercise of his powers. The president's power, the ones that have the executive powers, they're in the Constitution. Some of them in a few acts. I'll challenge you, go read the Constitution, you'll find that they're not as expansive as people think. But we have heard, for example, in the past, where it says the president has appointed a chief executive officer. The president can't do that, he doesn't have the power. Or the president has fired. No, the president doesn't have that power.
So what we're saying is that a situation where presidents have been appropriating power to themselves, which should not.
Yeah. Which they never had.
So they don't even have to give.
Don't even have to give somebody out what you don't have it. You cannot give that which you don't have. But yes, I do agree there are some powers that have to be shed off.
Yes.
They will not make any difference. In fact, they'll just make the president have less headache. Can you imagine the issue of chiefs? I mean, it's
hectic.
It's a hot potato. I think the president would be better left off doing other things.
So, well, I don't want to drag you into politics because you said, you hinted that you don't intend to do politics.
I comment on politics.
You do comment on politics quite a lot. Actually, your Facebook page is very active.
Which has to do with law.
Now,
so, politics related to law.
Sticking to issues of law, I have been monitoring what's happening in the country and also following quite a lot what's happening, especially on social media.
Yeah.
The Tonse government got into power with the promise to change things. Yeah. And you get a feeling of desperation among people that things are not changing as fast as... Quickly, do you think things are changing as fast as they should?
No, I think they'll change much faster, but the president is kind of hamstrung. And I'm saying that because there are things he can do, there are things he can't do, and there are things he needs to take time.
So there are things like people are saying, fire that person.
Yeah, but it's not just...
Change that thing.
Not under our law. You cannot do that. Unless, as Malawians, we're prepared to pay billions in compensations to these people. So you can't fire anyone at any time. Pay them off. So I'll give an example. This is what happened. Most of these people had their contracts renewed around June, May, thereabouts, just before the election.
Yes.
So they have, it's up. Most of them have 3-year contracts or 4-year contracts. You cannot just fire them because those contracts were validly renewed. There could have been issues around it. So if the best way to fire them is either find something wrong with them or pay them off. So if we had a full bag of money, I think that would be the solution. I think most of us who are not politicians, that's what would think, just fire them.
Yeah.
Fire them.
Yeah.
But you need to have money because you need to pay them. We must these cases will go to court. 2-3 years, they'll come back. Can you imagine what would happen 2-3 years, or just before the elections, the next elections? And then there's a newspaper article, headlines, or government to pay 20 billion because of unfair dismissals. The people have forgotten that we
were the ones who were pushing for that.
So the president has to make a decision, what is called the devil's alternative. Whichever decision he makes, it's not going to please everyone. There'll be a section that will not happy. But the other thing to consider is that some of these people we call cadets, they may have been doing things because they were either scared of their jobs, but they're also Malawians. So as a president, he's also the father of the country, of the nation. So he has to kind of unite the country. It's not easy for him. Yes, we could do it better. And I think things are happening. If you check what is happening, things are happening. But I think I'll be a little bit worried as a lawyer if for example, OPC started churning out dismissal termination letters every week. I think that's what people want. But yeah, it could be done. Of course, there's sometimes I say, maybe he should do this, but then the lawyer in me sometimes tells me, wait a minute. And I'm also a human rights activist. I'm a commissioner of the Malawi Human Rights Commission. So if I have to say, you can't just do this. You can't do this. So, yeah, the president is between a rock and a hard place. It could be done better. But I think sometimes when he speaks, you hear the frustration in his voice.
Yes.
But I think let's give him time.
But then, Fundisi, I guess this is what they call a catch-22 situation. Yeah. You are a follower of reggae music, and Bob Marley says, "Strike the iron while there."
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah, but you don't do that in democracy. We chose in 1994. And this is where people sometimes forget. The things they want the president to do are the things we were doing pre-1994.
Okay. When we paid dearly for them.
Yeah, and we paid dearly. And I don't think President Chakwera would want to go down in history as a president who didn't follow the law. You get the point? Because it's about his legacy. So And you must also understand the nature of the man. You know, when he talks, you actually have a sense that this man is looking into the good of us. That he's the type of person, in my view, who are always giving people the benefit of doubt. Now, sometimes people like those face these types of criticisms. But I think it would be naive for us to think that the president is not aware. I think I've noticed, for example, that certain people, that when their contracts are finished,
they're not being renewed.
Yes. So I think after 2-3 years, we might notice that things have changed. But what we don't want is a replacement of one set of cadets with another. What we want is having Malawians who love this country, patriotic Malawians who love the country.
Do you find democracy frustrating?
Oh, yeah.
In that
it is.
Sometimes there's a clearly right thing that you have to do. And if you had all the powers, you could do, and things would really change. But because of human rights and democracy and everything, everybody has got their right, and then you've got your hands stuck.
Do you think if the church was democratic, the church would survive?
It wouldn't, would it?
No. Do you think if God was democratic, would all be following God?
I've always thought he's democratic.
No. He gives you a choice within certain parameters.
Limited.
But this is my view about democracy. Countries like us have been forced. If you look at the countries that are democratic now, the US, the UK, and the West, they grew up West dictatorships. It's only when that's when they embrace democracy. If we have embraced democracy when we are poor,
too early.
Too early. We can never get rich. Mark my words.
You see the president who wants to do the right thing, and he can't because of it. And then you see someone there who wants to change things, and oh no.
You can't do it.
You can't move a stone without killing ants.
Let me tell you, if we had started as democracy in 1961, you think this was not a banga?
Someone would have opposed it. They would have wanted it built. Build it in Kasungu.
But
No, build it.
He decided, I'll just do it. So the foundations of this country were laid on dictatorship. Look at all the infrastructures in Malawi, all of them. If you look at all of them, they are pre-1994.
The whole idea of having people weigh in on every decision is quite frustrating when you come to think of it. Because, I mean, even on the most plainest of situations, someone will still always have a different view.
No, it is. I agree with you.
We have to wind up. I've got a set of questions which I'd like to ask you, to which you can only answer yes or no.
Oh, yes.
All right, then. Yeah. So the first question, you just have to tell me your full name.
Yeah. Sundizwayo Madise.
Now I realize I've been pronouncing your name wrong.
You're not the only one. It's okay.
You should have corrected me at the beginning.
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
It's Sundizwayo.
Sundizwayo.
Does it mean anything?
Yeah. Sunduza.
What does it mean?
Sunduza.
What is it?
Sunta.
Move.
Pushing away.
Sundizwayo.
Yeah. Kusunduza.
Push him away.
Yeah, push. It was about pushing. Yeah. There's a story around
Push this man away.
Yeah, it was about my father. My mother was pushing my father around.
Yeah.
When she was
they used to burden us with those names when they...
Yeah, because in Ngoni culture, because I'm Ngoni, the name usually has something to do with the circumstances of the birth or the things that were happening around.
So let's start over again and forget about pushing people away. Okay. What is your full name?
Sundizwayo Madise.
Do you have any tattoos?
No.
Do you have any piercings?
No.
Do you have children?
Yes.
Have you ever shot a gun?
Yes.
Have you cried over someone?
Yes.
Have you fallen in love before?
Yes.
Have you killed a chicken before?
Yes.
Have you killed a goat before?
Oh, yes.
Have you gotten into a fight before?
Oh, yes.
Have you gotten any surgeries?
Yes.
Have you ever been hospitalized?
Not as it admitted.
Okay. Have you donated blood?
Yes.
Do you know your blood group?
Oh, I think.
Have you ever smoked weed?
No, but I nearly did.
Would you smoke weed?
No, I'm not so sure, but at that time I could have smoked it.
Have you ever drunk alcohol?
Oh, that's not a question. That's a statement. Of course, yes.
Do you drink alcohol?
Of course, yes.
Have you broken someone's heart?
I think so.
Have you had a crush on someone?
Oh, yes.
Do you have political ambitions?
No.
I think you'll be a politician at some point.
I don't think
I think it's a matter of time. You grow tired of being a law lecturer. But eventually you will grow tired. Let me start something. Let me go and get blindfolded, and then I'll start in primary.
I have 0 people behind you.
We have to wind up. What's our last song going to be?
Our last song has to be by someone, I said, who comes from Chileka again.
Yes.
Anthony Makondesa.
Yes.
I think I helped him in, I think, one of his first albums.
Is that so? How?
The same thing I did with Matafali.
You remastered his music?
He remastered his music. I designed his sleeves. I designed the CDs. And because I loved he has got a unique reggae beat.
Yeah.
And his songs usually have a lot of words.
Zitukulu zake Yakobo, ana ake atavite, Satana sutatita, sigulina uzagonja. Rastafari. Ana Yakobo. Motisonta kwanta ya Itali, kodicholinga chako nichiani, umakondwa ukamati wana tikungolia, oipa iweo, kamwaza chupa mazomba Yehova, ziteta kwia chilango kwa woipa, potawelusa mfumu yachu, ya fuko langa la Juda. Sono ife anatavite sititayimba ndikutamanda ile Mikila utati uze chome fuko langale Rastafari. Leo iva mawanga live mumba titukulu take Satana sutatita, oiwe Satana iwe Lucifer, moiwanga Satana oiwe Satana, one day utago Satana, one day utago jange, one day utagonja, hallelujah. One day utago.
Let's take a moment to talk about money. Life can get a little pricey out there. The passing pleasure of a restaurant meal. A fleeting fast food feast. Or those sports magazines you never really finish. But what if you got to watch the big game rather than read about it? And what if that lasted a lot longer? Well, with GoTV it can. Because with a whole range of different package options to choose from, you can get a whole month's worth of moments for both you and your family at a price you can afford.
You got it urgent too?
That's right. Only one. In exchange for hours of sport, lifestyle, international, local, and kids entertainment.
This is gonna be great!
GoTV. Live it, love it.
Mask bwana. Abwana muvale mask.
Sindikufunika maski.
Abwana, simungalowe muno opanda maski.
Uku ndekuyesa nato. Bambo anga ndi bwana wankulu utu pa kampani pano. Dikira na imve nkhani imene.
Akuuza zona mwana wanga.
Chani? Ndine ndemwe?
Inde, aliyense akuvala mask. Palibe kusankha. Ngati uli ndi kachilombo koyambisa COVID-19, mask yakoyo ikhoza kuteteza ena kuti asatenge kwa iwe.
Mukatero mukhala mukuteteza tonsefe.
Ndipo ngati ulibe COVID-19, mask yakoyo imakuthandiza kuti upewe